she texted her friends. His proposal was so cringe. Thank God I said no. Forgetting I was still in the group chat. I replied, dodged a bullet, forwarded it to her mom, and watched her perfect life collapse while mine got better than ever. I had been dating Emily for just under 3 years when I decided to propose. We weren't perfect, but I thought we were solid. We had weathered arguments, long-distance stints when she did a 6-month program abroad, and the stress of me working 2 jobs while finishing grad school. Through all of that, I thought we were a team. Looking back now, maybe I ignored the small red flags. The way she sometimes laughed a little too hard at her friends' stories about settling down with rich guys. Or how she always seemed more concerned with Instagram-worthy dates than the simple nights in where we cooked and watched Netflix. But I chalked it up to personality differences. I'm more private, she's more outgoing. I convinced myself it balanced out. When I bought the ring, it wasn't some flashy diamond meant to outshine. It was a modest but elegant piece with a sapphire stone, because she'd once told me in passing that sapphires were her favorite. I spent months saving, picking out the right moment. Finally, I arranged a quiet dinner at her favorite rooftop restaurant. I rehearsed my speech in my head 100 times. And to my relief, at least in that moment, she said yes. Her eyes watered, she hugged me, and the restaurant applauded. It felt like the happiest night of my life. But within a week, cracks started to show. She wasn't posting about the engagement. For someone who shared pictures of her coffee every morning, the silence on Instagram was noticeable. When I asked why, she brushed it off with, "I don't want to deal with the comments yet." Her friends looked surprised when they saw the ring in person. Not surprised in the happy way, more in the "is that it" way. And Emily laughed awkwardly, saying things like, "Yeah, he's not flashy, but it's cute, right?" The real hit came 2 weeks later. I was at work during lunch when my phone buzzed. Emily had sent a text to her group chat with her 3 closest girlfriends. The notification popped up on my lock screen, and I froze. She had accidentally added me to the group months ago when we were planning a joint vacation. I never left it. I muted it, barely checked it, because it was mostly chatter about clothes, gossip, and inside jokes. But apparently she had forgotten I was still in there. The text read, "LOL, his proposal was so cringe. Thank God I said no." My chest tightened. My eyes read it again and again, trying to process. Thank God I said no. Except she hadn't. At least not to my face. To me, she had said yes. To the world, we were engaged. But apparently, behind my back, she was performing for an audience, making my most vulnerable moment into a joke. The replies from her friends stung even more. "Girl, I told you. You can do so much better than him. At least you got a free dinner and a ring." And Emily, doubling down. "I'm not wasting my prime years on Mr. Boring." My mom's so excited though. She's already planning the stupid wedding. LMAO. This is gonna be fun. I didn't scream. I didn't throw my phone. I didn't even cry. Something inside me just went still, like a switch flipping. I typed one short reply into the group chat. Dodged a bullet. Then I left the chat. Emily didn't respond right away. Maybe she was in shock. Maybe she hadn't realized what she'd done. But I knew exactly what I would do next. See, her mother, Linda, had been buzzing with excitement since the proposal. Linda had called me 3 times that week alone to discuss venues, guest lists, color palettes. She'd already started putting down deposits. It seemed Emily hadn't told her that this was all a joke. So I forwarded the screenshots. Every single one. From her calling me Mr. Boring to laughing at her own mother for planning this stupid wedding. I didn't add commentary. No explanations. Just the screenshots. 10 minutes later, my phone rang. Linda. When I answered, she didn't even say hello. She was crying, furious, sputtering words like, "How could she? After all I've done." I calmly told her that I had no answers. That Emily's words spoke for themselves. And that I was stepping away. By that evening, the chaos had begun. Emily stormed into my apartment, red-faced, screaming, "Why would you do that? Why would you send those to my mom?" She was shaking, but not from shame, from anger at being exposed. I stayed calm. "Because you turned my proposal into a punchline. Because you lied to me, to your friends, to your family. And because your mom deserved to know the truth before she spent another dime." She screamed some more, calling me petty, dramatic, saying I had ruined her life. I told her to leave my apartment. When she refused, I picked up the small bag I had already packed with her things. I'd done it as soon as I hit forward on the screenshots and placed it by the door. Get out, Emily. For once, she didn't have a comeback. As the door shut behind her, I felt the first wave of relief. But I knew this wasn't the end. The next morning, I woke up to a dozen missed calls and even more unread messages. Half were from Emily, half from mutual friends. I didn't answer any of them. My phone felt heavy, like every buzz was trying to drag me back into the circus I had just walked away from. Instead, I brewed myself coffee and sat in silence. For the first time in weeks, maybe months, I felt like I was breathing normally again. No forced smiles, no pretending everything was fine, no living in a fantasy engagement that only existed for Instagram. Around 9 a.m., my phone buzzed again, but this time it was Linda. I almost didn't pick up, but curiosity won. Hi, Linda. Her voice was tight, but composed. I want you to know, I canceled all the deposits. I called the vendors. It's over. Good, I said simply. Then, almost in a whisper, she added, I'm so sorry. I raised her better than this. I didn't know what to say. Linda had always been kind to me, treating me like family. It wasn't her fault that her daughter had decided to play games with people's hearts. Still, hearing the shame in her voice was hard. You don't owe me an apology, I said finally. She made her choices. After we hung up, I scrolled through my messages. The group chat had exploded after my exit. Emily had apparently tried to spin the story, claiming I overreacted and was being immature. But the screenshots spoke for themselves. A few of her friends doubled down, defending her, but others clearly started backing away. The silence from half the chat was louder than any insult. That evening, Emily showed up again at my apartment. This time she wasn't screaming, she was crying. Please, can we just talk? She begged, clutching the strap of her purse like it was holding her together. I let her inside, but I stayed standing. She launched into a rambling apology, saying she didn't mean it, that it was just jokes, that her friends pressured her into saying things she didn't believe. She tried to spin the text as sarcasm, claiming she had said, "Thank God I said no," because she meant, "Thank God I didn't say no." It was the kind of flimsy wordplay a kid uses when caught in a lie. Emily, I interrupted. You laughed at me behind my back. You mocked me, mocked us, mocked your mom. That wasn't a joke. That was how you really felt. And honestly, I believe you. You don't want to marry me. That's fine. But don't try to rewrite it now. Her tears dried quickly, replaced by anger. So that's it. You're just going to throw away 3 years. No, I said. You threw it away. I'm just not digging through the trash, trying to piece it back together. She left again, slamming the door so hard the frame rattled. For the next week, the fallout spread like wildfire. Linda stopped speaking to her daughter entirely, at least for a while. Our mutual friends split into factions, some avoiding both of us, some reaching out to me in private to say they couldn't believe what she'd done. Word even spread to her workplace because one of her besties from the chat couldn't resist telling the story at brunch. Suddenly, Emily wasn't the one laughing anymore. She was the punchline. I should have felt vindicated. Maybe a small part of me did. But mostly, I just felt tired. So I did what I hadn't done in years. I booked a solo weekend trip. Just me, a small cabin, and no phone notifications. I hiked. I read. I cooked for myself. I sat under the stars with a glass of whiskey and let myself grieve not for Emily, but for the version of her I thought I knew. The girl who had once looked at me like I was enough. When I got back, I felt lighter. Of course, Emily wasn't done. She texted again, this time with a different tactic. Pity. I made a mistake. Please. I don't want to start over. You're the only one who ever really loved me. I stared at the screen for a long time before replying. You're right. I did love you. But you didn't love me back. Not the way I deserved. So it's over. Please stop contacting me. I blocked her after that. A few days later, Linda texted me again. Just a simple message. Thank you for handling this with more dignity than my daughter deserved. I hope you find someone who treats you the way you treated her. And for the first time since the proposal, I smiled. Because I realized that's exactly what I was going to do. This wasn't the ending I planned, but maybe it was the one I needed. Update 1. It's been about a month since everything blew up, and I wanted to give an update because, honestly, the amount of support and clarity I've gotten since posting the first part has been overwhelming. When I wrote that first post, I was still sitting in the middle of the wreckage. The engagement was fresh off the rails. Emily was still texting me, and her mother had just pulled the plug on the wedding plans. I felt raw. Hurt. Yes, but more than that. betrayed in a way I hadn't really processed yet. I'd spent years thinking this woman was my partner, only to find out I was the punchline in a private joke. But here's the thing about betrayal. After the initial sting, there's a strange kind of freedom that comes with it. The first big shift happened when I went back to work. People had obviously heard whispers. A broken engagement gets around fast. I was dreading the questions, the pity looks, the awkward, "Are you okay?" moments. But instead of pity, I got quiet respect. A couple of coworkers even pulled me aside and said, "Man, you dodged a bullet." That phrase kept coming up. Dodged a bullet. At first, I resisted it. How could 3 years of my life, all the memories, the vacations, the family dinners, be dismissed as a bullet? But as time went on, I started to see what they meant. Staying with someone who belittles you, who mocks you behind your back, who cares more about appearances than actual commitment. That's not a future, that's a trap. And getting out, no matter how painful, really was dodging something much worse. Meanwhile, Emily's spiral has been public. Remember the group chat where she called my proposal cringe? Well, one of the so-called friends in that chat, I still don't know who, screenshotted her meltdown after I left and leaked it onto a private community Facebook group that a lot of people in our town use. From there, it spread like wildfire. Suddenly, everyone knew the story. Her cringe proposal comment became a meme in some circles. I shouldn't laugh, but honestly, after being humiliated by her, there was something karmic about her becoming the target of her own humiliation. Emily, of course, blamed me. She sent me this long, furious email accusing me of weaponizing the internet against her, as if I had any control over who leaked the screenshots. She ended it with, "I hope you're happy destroying my reputation." I didn't reply. I didn't need to. She was doing that just fine on her own. But the real twist came when Linda, her mom, reached out again. She invited me to dinner. At first, I thought it was weird. Why would I want to sit across from the mother of my ex-fiancé? But she was insistent. "It's not about her," she said. "It's about you." So I went. And honestly, it was one of the most healing experiences I've had in years. Linda sat me down, poured me a glass of wine, and just apologized. Not in that vague, obligatory way, but genuinely. She told me that she and Emily's father were devastated by what their daughter had done, that they'd seen red flags before, but never imagined she would humiliate me like that. She said something that stuck with me. Sometimes, the person you think you raised turns out to be someone else entirely. That's our heartbreak, not yours. You deserved better, and I'm sorry you didn't get it with her. I almost cried at the table. Because hearing that it wasn't me, that I wasn't crazy for feeling betrayed, it mattered more than I realized. After dinner, Linda hugged me and said, "Please don't let her be the reason you give up on love. You're a good man." That night, for the first time since the broken engagement, I actually believed that maybe I could move forward. And moving forward I have. I've thrown myself into hobbies I'd neglected: hiking, photography, even cooking more than just bachelor meals. I've reconnected with old friends I drifted away from while wrapped up in Emily's social circle. I've even started going to therapy, which has been a game changer in helping me unpack not just what happened with Emily, but why I ignored the little warning signs along the way. As for Emily, last I heard, she moved out of her apartment because she couldn't afford it anymore after canceling the wedding. Her parents stopped financially bailing her out. She's couch surfing with friends and trying to repair her reputation, but the damage is done. People don't forget screenshots. Do I feel sorry for her? A little, but not enough to ever let her back into my life. Here's the biggest surprise, though. I don't feel bitter. Angry, sometimes yes. But bitter? No. If anything, I feel lighter. Because Emily did me the biggest favor of all. She showed me who she really was before I made the mistake of marrying her. And now, instead of being stuck in a marriage built on mockery and lies, I get to start fresh. So yeah, maybe I did dodge a bullet. Final update. It's been just about a year since my ex-fiancée, Emily, humiliated me with that cringe proposal text, and I figured I owed one last update to close this chapter. When I look back now, I can't believe how far I've come. A year ago, I was broken, embarrassed, angry. Now, I feel like I've been given a second chance at life, and I actually took it. The biggest change came a few months after my last update. I'd been spending more time on myself, therapy, hobbies, reconnecting with friends, and one of those friends introduced me to someone new. Her name's Claire. She wasn't some rebound or casual distraction. From the start, she felt different. Grounded. Real. Claire's the type of person who makes you feel seen without you having to perform. I never realized how much of my relationship with Emily was about appearances until I experienced the opposite. With Claire, I don't have to be anything other than myself. She's goofy, supportive, hardworking. And the first time I cooked dinner for her, she laughed at my terrible pasta but said it was the best night she'd had in months. I told her everything about Emily early on, the proposal, the group chat, the screenshots, all of it. Instead of judging me, she just shook her head and said, "Honestly, you're lucky she showed you who she was before you tied the knot. You got spared." That word again, spared, dodged, freed. And hearing it from someone who genuinely wanted the best for me hit different. We're not rushing things, but for the first time, I can actually imagine a future with someone and feel excited instead of anxious. Meanwhile, Emily's life has been, well, exactly what she built for herself. After the fiasco with the canceled wedding and the screenshots, her reputation in our social circle never recovered. Friends distanced themselves, not because of me, but because they realized if she could trash me behind my back, she could do it to them too. She burned bridges without even realizing it. She tried dating a couple of guys, but it never lasted. One of them, ironically enough, reached out to me months later and said, "Man, you weren't kidding. She really does tear people down constantly." I didn't reply, but it told me everything I needed to know. The last I heard, Emily moved back in with her parents. And here's the kicker. Remember how her mom, Linda, had been supportive of me after everything? Well, apparently Emily resents her for it. Their relationship is rocky now. It's sad, but honestly, not surprising. Emily's biggest enemy has always been her own pride. I'd be lying if I said I don't get a small amount of satisfaction from knowing she lost everything she took for granted. But the truth is, my life has gotten too good for me to waste time gloating. Career-wise, I've thrived. After freeing myself from the chaos, I put my energy into work and got promoted to a leadership role I'd been chasing for years. Turns out, having peace of mind really does make you more productive. Who knew? Personally, I've found balance again. My weekends aren't filled with anxiety about what Emily will say or do, or what performance I'll have to put on at her social gatherings. Instead, I spend time hiking, cooking, traveling, things I actually enjoy. And Claire? She's been right there with me. A couple of months ago, we took a road trip together, no big plans, just driving, talking, stopping at little diners along the way. At one point, she looked at me across the table and said, "You seem free." And I realized I am. Free from the weight of someone else's expectations. Free from being a joke in my own relationship. Free from the idea that love has to be earned through suffering. As for Emily, she tried reaching out once. A long, rambling message about how we had something real once and how she regrets letting her friends influence her. She said she wanted to talk. I didn't reply, not out of anger, but because I've finally accepted that some doors should stay closed. Answering her would only drag me back into a storm I've already walked through, and I have no interest in reliving that. Instead, I keep moving forward. And for the first time in years, I actually believe in the phrase better things ahead. Because better things are ahead. I can feel it. If anyone reading this is going through something similar, betrayal, humiliation, heartbreak, let me leave you with this. You may not realize it now, but sometimes the worst thing that happens to you is actually the best thing that could have. Emily gave me heartbreak, yes, but she also gave me freedom. And freedom gave me the chance to rebuild. So no, I don't think about the cringe proposal anymore. I think about the fact that I'm building a life with someone who values me, that I'm stronger than I've ever been, and that I didn't just survive this. I came out better for it. And that's the last chapter in this story.